$3.50. That's what you earn in Venezuela. Not per hour, not per day, per month. An entire month of work, $3.50. Now let me show you what that buys. Rent starts at $100. A kilogram of meat, $5. A dozen eggs, $3. Rice, beans, milk, forget it. With 1 month's salary, you can't even survive one day. It's mathematically impossible to live. And here's where your brain will explode. This same country has the world's largest oil reserves, bigger than Saudi Arabia's palaces, bigger than Russia's wealth, bigger than anything in the Middle East. 303 billion barrels of oil underground. So how does a country with infinite riches have people earning $3.50 a month? How did 25% of the population flee? How did a nation that was once called the Saudi Arabia of Latin America become this? I'm about to show you the most expensive mistakes in human history and why this matters to you no matter where you live. The daily life of Venezuelans. The cost of living and food. Imagine waking up not knowing if you'll be able to buy food for your family today. This is the reality for millions of Venezuelans. In 2025, the minimum wage in Venezuela is around $3.50 per month. Yes, for an entire month. To put this in perspective, a kilogram of meat costs approximately $4 to $5, a kilogram of rice about $1.50, and a dozen eggs can reach $3. Hyperinflation destroyed the purchasing power of the bolivar. Entire families depend on remittances sent by relatives who manage to emigrate. On the streets of Caracas, Maracaibo, and Valencia, people stand in long lines at government-subsidized markets where basic products are sold at controlled prices but in limited quantities and questionable quality. Child malnutrition has become a national crisis. According to data from Caritas Venezuela, more than 30% of children under 5 show some degree of malnutrition. Hospitals report cases of kwashiorkor and marasmus, diseases related to severe lack of proteins and calories, which hadn't been seen in the country for decades. The housing crisis is another silent drama. In Caracas, apartments that were once worth hundreds of thousands of dollars are now being sold for $10,000 to $20,000, but even so, few can afford to buy. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in middle-class neighborhoods ranges from $100 to $300 per month, an astronomical amount considering the average salary. The barrios, slums that extend across the hills of Caracas, house more than half of the capital's population. There, improvised houses made of bricks and zinc stack up on dangerous slopes. Power outages are constant, lasting hours or even days. Running water is an intermittent luxury. Families store water in tanks and buckets, always fearing the next dry period in the faucets. Health system in collapse. The Venezuelan health system, which in the 70s and 80s was a reference in Latin America, today faces an unprecedented tragedy. Hospitals operate without basic medications, without anesthesia, without disposable syringes. Surgeries are performed with patients bringing their own medical supplies. The 2024 National Hospital Survey revealed that 79% of hospitals don't have running water regularly. 92% face shortages of essential medications, and 67% of medical equipment is inoperative. Doctors and nurses earning $5 to $10 per month have left the country en masse. It's estimated that more than 30,000 health professionals have emigrated since 2015. Diseases that had been eradicated returned with force. Malaria, diphtheria, measles. Maternal mortality increased 65% between 2015 and 2023. Pregnant women fear the moment of childbirth, knowing that hospitals may not have minimum care conditions. Job market and survival. Official unemployment fluctuates between 35 and 40%, but these numbers don't tell the complete story. Most Venezuelans work in the informal sector: street vendors, app-based taxi drivers, various service providers. Qualified professionals, engineers, teachers, doctors work as Uber drivers or delivery workers. The rebusque economy, or hustle economy, dominates. People sell everything from arepas on street corners to contraband gasoline in bottles. Creativity for survival knows no limits. Some collect recyclable materials, others repair electronic devices, many do multiple odd jobs just to get the basics. The informal dollarization of the economy brought relative relief for those who have access to dollars, but created a two-speed society. Those who receive remittances or work for foreign companies can live reasonably well, while those who depend on salaries in bolívares live in absolute misery. Fragmented education. The Venezuelan educational system, which had a literacy rate of 97%, faces its worst moment. Teachers are abandoning classrooms. With salaries of $5 to $15 per month, many need to work other jobs to survive. Public schools operate precariously, without adequate school meals, without teaching materials, frequently without water or electricity. Public universities, which were once centers of excellence, are experiencing the exodus of their best professors and researchers. Laboratories deactivated, libraries outdated, infrastructure deteriorated. School dropout rates have skyrocketed. Children and youth abandon their studies to work or because families can't afford transportation and materials. Paradoxically, a premium private education market has emerged for those who have dollars, creating an educational chasm between social classes. Culture and national identity. Despite everything, Venezuelan culture persists. Joropo, traditional music from the Llanos, still echoes at parties and celebrations. Gaita Zuliana takes over the streets during Christmas. The arepa remains the national gastronomic symbol, adapted to each family's possibilities, from the simplest, just with cheese, to the elaborate reina pepiada when resources are available. Baseball continues to be a national passion. Even amid the crisis, improvised fields in poor neighborhoods reveal talents who dream of reaching the major leagues, following in the footsteps of idols like Miguel Cabrera and José Altuve. The San Juan festivities in June celebrate Afro-Venezuelan roots with drums and dances. Carnival, although less grand than in times of prosperity, still brings communities together. Venezuelan identity remains alive through music, food, religious traditions, and the pride of a people who don't give up. If you're just now discovering the complexity of the Venezuelan situation, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos where we'll explore real stories and in-depth analyses about Latin America and the world. Leave your like if this content is adding knowledge to your worldview. And now, let's understand Venezuela's greatest contradiction. How did the country with the world's largest oil reserves reach this point? The oil paradox. The magnitude of the reserves. Venezuela officially possesses 303.8 billion barrels of oil in proven reserves, according to 2024 OPEC data. To put this in perspective, it's the world's largest oil reserve, surpassing Saudi Arabia with 267 billion barrels, Canada with 168 billion, Iran 157 billion, and Iraq 145 billion. The Orinoco Oil Belt, which extends for more than 600 kilometers south of the Orinoco River, concentrates approximately 90% of these reserves. This unique geological region contains extra heavy oil with high viscosity, which requires specific extraction and refining technologies. But here's the problem. Having oil in the subsoil is not the same as transforming it into wealth. Venezuela produced 3.5 million barrels per day in 1998. In 2024, this production fell to about 800,000 barrels daily, a 77% drop. Petróleos de Venezuela S.A.A., PDVSA, the state oil company founded in 1976, was once considered one of the most efficient and profitable companies in Latin America. Today, its facilities are in a calamitous state. The Amway refinery, located on the Paraguana Peninsula, Falcon State, was the world's third-largest refinery, with capacity to process 645,000 barrels per day. After a catastrophic explosion in August 2012 and years of lack of maintenance, it currently operates at less than 10% of its capacity. Corruption diverted billions of dollars, overpriced contracts, phantom equipment imports, shell companies, schemes that enriched a few while infrastructure crumbled. International sanctions and isolation. Sanctions imposed by the United States starting in 2019 aggravated the crisis. The American government prohibited U.S. companies from doing business with PDVSA, froze Venezuelan assets abroad, and sanctioned individuals linked to the government. Europe followed a similar path, although less rigorously. The result, Venezuela lost access to advanced extraction, refining, and commercialization technologies. International banks avoid Venezuelan transactions, making even legitimate operations difficult. International interest and controversial partnerships. Despite Western sanctions, other countries maintain interest in Venezuelan oil. China became the main commercial partner. Companies like China National Petroleum Corporation, CNPC, maintain operations in Venezuela. China has lent more than $60 billion to Venezuela since 2007, receiving oil as payment. Russia, through Rosneft, which reduced operations in 2020, and other smaller companies, maintained a presence. Russian-Venezuelan collaboration also includes arms sales and military advisory. Iran established a strategic partnership, sending gasoline tankers and technologists to help reactivate refineries in exchange for oil and gold. India significantly increased its imports of Venezuelan oil at discounted prices, becoming one of the country's main oil destinations. Turkey developed commercial relations, including refining Venezuelan gold and commodity trading. European companies, especially Spanish and Italian, maintain interest, awaiting political changes to resume investments on a larger scale. The wasted potential, an estimate. If Venezuela exploited its oil reserves with efficiency comparable to Saudi Arabia or Norway, the scenario would be radically different. Considering a conservative average price of $70 per barrel and production of 3 million barrels daily, an achievable level with adequate investments, Venezuela would generate gross revenues of approximately $76.6 billion annually from oil exports alone. With a population of about 28 million inhabitants after mass emigration, this would represent about $2,735 per capita per year just from oil revenues, not counting other economic sectors. For comparison, Norway, with proportionally similar oil revenues, created a sovereign wealth fund that today exceeds $1.4 trillion, guaranteeing prosperity for future generations. Norway's GDP per capita is approximately $90,000. With competent management, Venezuela could invest $20 billion annually in infrastructure, roads, hospitals, schools, sanitation, allocate $15 billion to a universal quality healthcare system, allocate $10 billion for educational excellence, including free technical and university education, Create a sovereign stabilization fund to protect the economy from oil price fluctuations. Develop other economic sectors through incentives and investments. Guarantee decent salaries for public employees. Implement effective social programs to combat poverty. The minimum wage could easily exceed $500 per month, allowing for a decent life. The country would have resources to be a reference in health, education, and quality of life in Latin America. History and key figures. The roots of the crisis. To understand today's Venezuela, we need to go back in time. December 14, 1922, the beginning of it all. The La Rosa oil field is discovered in Cabimas, Zulia State. The Barros II well gushes oil for 9 consecutive days. Venezuela enters the oil era. 1970s, the economic zenith. Carlos Andrés Pérez, in his first term, 1974 to 1979, nationalizes the oil industry by creating PDVSA on January 1, 1976. Venezuela experiences its economic apogee. Caracas is known as the Sultana of Avila. The country has the strongest currency in Latin America. February 27, 1989, the Caracazo turning point. Violent protests against austerity measures implemented by Carlos Andrés Pérez in his second term are brutally repressed. Between 300 and 3,000 people die. This event marks a turning point in Venezuelan history. February 4, 1992, Chávez's rise. Chávez Frias, then a lieutenant colonel, leads a failed coup attempt against Pérez. Imprisoned, he gains national notoriety by taking responsibility for the movement on national television, saying that his objectives were not achieved for now, por ahora. December 6, 1998, the Bolivarian Revolution begins. Chávez is elected president with 56% of the vote, promising a Bolivarian revolution and a new constitution. His anti-establishment rhetoric resonated with Venezuelans tired of traditional parties. 1999 to 2006, consolidation of power. Chávez consolidates power through a new constitution, progressively controls democratic institutions, and nationalizes companies. With oil prices high, reaching $140 per barrel in 2008, he implemented popular social programs, misiones, that temporarily reduced poverty. 2002 to 2003, a strike at PDVSA organized by the opposition paralyzed production. Chávez fires 19,000 PDVSA employees, replacing qualified technicians with political loyalists, a crucial moment for subsequent decline. March 5, 2013, Hugo Chávez dies of cancer. Nicolás Maduro, his chosen vice president, assumes power. 2013 to 2025. Under Maduro, the crisis deepens exponentially. The drop in oil prices from 2014 exposes the fragility of the economic model. Hyperinflation, scarcity, political repression, and institutional collapse characterize the period. Venezuela represents one of the most intriguing humanitarian and economic tragedies of the 21st century. A country blessed with incomparable natural resources was brought to ruin by decades of poor governance, systematic corruption, disastrous economic policies, and growing authoritarianism. The Venezuelan people are not living this crisis due to lack of resources or potential. They are living it despite having abundant resources. The difference between what Venezuela is and what it could be is one of the largest gaps between potential and reality in any nation in the world. While families stand in line for food and hospitals operate without basic medications, billions of barrels of oil remain unexplored or poorly exploited. While qualified professionals wash dishes in neighboring countries, refineries rust. While children drop out of school, the sovereign wealth fund that could guarantee their future was never created. Venezuelan history teaches us crucial lessons. Natural wealth does not guarantee prosperity. Strong institutions are more valuable than natural resources, and the quality of governance determines the fate of nations much more than any geographical or geological advantage. For the millions of Venezuelans inside and outside the country, hope for better days remains. For the world, Venezuela serves as a warning and case study of how not to manage resources and build a nation.